Welcome back, everyone. So, you've sent us, well, a mountain of documents, really, about this thing called TETRAS the Third. Honestly, it's a little intimidating, not going to lie.
Yeah.
You're trying to understand what this government contract's all about.
Yeah.
And it involves billions of dollars, cutting-edge weapons, and even cybersecurity. No pressure, right?
It's definitely a complex topic, but don't worry, that's why we're here.
Right.
To, break down this beast together.
Right, okay. So first things first, what exactly is TETRAS the Third?
So at its core, TETRAS the Third is about giving the U.S. DoD a serious upgrade in its ability to test the next generation of weapons and defense systems. We're talking about stuff that sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie.
Right, like those hypersonic missiles everyone's been talking.
Exactly. Hypersonics, directed energy weapons, AI-powered systems, the works. And the interesting thing is, TETRAS the Third is actually a continuation of previous contracts. So this means the DoD already has a foundation in this area and is looking to build on it, which makes you wonder what they've already achieved.
And I noticed the documents emphasize rapid response and agility a lot. Is that a hint about how fast the world of warfare is changing?
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. Technology is evolving at an incredible pace, and potential adversaries are constantly developing new capabilities. So the DoD needs to be able to not only keep up, but stay ahead of the curve, which means testing and adapting quickly.
So basically, TETRAS the Third is like the DoD's way of, future-proofing its arsenal.
That's a great way to put it. Now, to really get a sense of the specifics, we need to dig into this draft statement of work, or SOW, that you sent us. Attachment 1, in particular, lays out exactly what the DoD wants to accomplish with TETRAS the Third.
Right, so the SOW is like our treasure map for understanding this whole thing.
Exactly. It's dense, but it's where we'll find the real gems. And what's fascinating here is that the scope goes way beyond just testing weapons. We're talking about developing entirely new testing systems and modifying existing facilities to handle these cutting-edge technologies.
So it's not just about the weapons themselves, it's about creating a whole infrastructure for evaluating them.
Precisely. And the SOW gets pretty granular about what they want to achieve. For example, imagine creating a digital simulation of a hypersonic missile launch to analyze its performance in various scenarios.
That sounds incredibly complex, like trying to predict the weather, but for a missile traveling at 5 times the speed of sound.
You're getting the idea. Or think about developing specialized software to analyze the data from a directed energy weapon test, measuring its power and accuracy. This is where things like artificial intelligence and machine learning become crucial.
It's like the DoD is trying to build its own high-tech crystal ball to see what the future of warfare holds.
And to make sure that crystal ball is secure, cybersecurity plays a massive role in TETRAS the Third. We're not just talking about protecting computer networks here, it's about ensuring the cybersecurity of entire weapons systems, from fighter jets to missile defense platforms.
That makes sense. I mean, What good is a super advanced weapon if it can be hacked and turned against you?
Exactly. So in the SOW, they emphasize the need for contractors to comply with a whole slew of cybersecurity standards and frameworks, things like RMF, CMMC, and NIST SP 800-171 Rev 3. They're not messing around.
So you're telling me the DoD is basically saying, hey, we want the coolest, most advanced weapons tech out there, but make sure it's hack-proof, too.
You got it. And all of this is going down primarily at Eglin Air Force Base, which is home to the 96th Range Group, a major user of the kind of technologies we're talking about.
But the SOW also hinted that the work might extend to other DoD test ranges around the world, right?
That's right. It seems like they're building a truly global network of testing and development capabilities. And it won't just be the Air Force involved. Other DoD organizations and even external customers might play a role, which adds another layer of complexity.
So it sounds like TETRAS the Third is going to be a massive collaborative effort.
Absolutely, involving not only various branches of the military, but potentially a whole network of contractors and subcontractors.
That makes me think of those behind-the-scenes documentaries about how they make blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
You've got all these incredibly talented people with specialized skills all coming together to create something truly groundbreaking.
It's a great analogy. And speaking of specialized skills, the SOW goes into quite a bit of detail about the specific technical expertise that will be needed for TETRAS the Third. And we're not talking about your run-of-the-mill engineering here. This is where it gets really interesting.
All right, so we've established that TETRAS the Third needs, a whole team of specialists.
Right.
But what exactly are these specialized skills we keep talking about?
Well, let's start with something called electromagnetic spectrum design and analysis.
Okay.
It's basically about understanding and manipulating the invisible world of electronic signals, which is kind of like the Wild West of modern warfare.
So instead of cowboys and gunslingers, we've got radio waves and electronic jamming.
Exactly. Everything from radar and communications to electronic warfare and even those directed energy weapons relies on the electromagnetic spectrum. The companies involved in Tetris the Third will need to be experts at navigating this, complex landscape.
Yeah, I'm starting to see why this rapid response thing is so important. If technology is evolving this quickly, it's like the rules of the game are constantly changing.
You're absolutely right. Another crucial area is what they call aircraft weapons munitions integration. It's about making sure all the different systems on an aircraft or within a weapon system work together seamlessly.
Kind of like making sure all the apps on your phone are compatible and don't crash into each other.
That's a good analogy, except in this case, the stakes are a bit higher. Imagine a scenario where a fighter jet can't launch a missile because of a software glitch or a communication error. Not good.
Talk about a stressful debugging session. So how do they even begin to test for something like that?
That's where all these new testing systems and facilities come in. They're creating highly sophisticated simulations and controlled environments to push these systems to their limits and identify any potential weaknesses.
I guess you can't exactly launch a real hypersonic missile every time you want to test something.
Definitely not. And speaking of trying to stay ahead of the curve, another key focus is on countermeasures. That's all about developing technologies to protect our forces from enemy weapons and electronic attacks.
So things like stealth technology to avoid detection or jamming systems to disrupt enemy radar?
Exactly. It's a constant back and forth with both sides trying to outmaneuver each other technologically.
It sounds almost like a chess match, but with lasers and hypersonic missiles instead of pawns and rooks.
I like that analogy. And then there's C6ISR systems processing, which is basically the brain of the entire operation.
Hmm.
C6ISR stands for Command and Control, Communications, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance.
That's a mouthful. So basically it's about gathering and processing all the information from the battlefield so commanders can make informed decisions.
Precisely. These systems need to be able to handle massive amounts of data coming in from sensors, radar systems, and communication networks, all in real time.
It sounds like a recipe for information overload. How do they make sense of it all?
That's where artificial intelligence and machine learning come in. These technologies are becoming essential for automating tasks, identifying patterns, and making predictions that would be impossible for humans to do on their own.
So it's like having a super-powered air traffic controller for the battlefield, directing the flow of information and making sure the right data gets to the right people at the right time.
That's a great way to visualize it. Of course, we can't forget the human element. Even with all this advanced technology, it's still people who are making the decisions and taking the actions.
Right, so all this incredible tech and expertise, who's actually going to be building it all? The SOW mentioned something about a casting call for companies, right?
That's right. It's called a sources sought notice. And it's basically the Air Force saying, hey, we've got this massive project coming up worth an estimated $20 billion. Who's interested?
$20 billion. No wonder they're calling it a massive project. So who are the likely contenders for a piece of this pie?
Well, it's a bit early to say for sure, but we can make some educated guesses. You're probably going to see big players like Lockheed Martin, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, and Raytheon stepping up to the plate.
Makes sense. Those are the companies you usually hear about when it comes to big defense contracts.
Yeah, they've got the experience, the resources, and the track record to handle a project of this scale. But interestingly, the Air Force is also encouraging small businesses to participate. They even mention it specifically in the sources sought notice.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It would be awesome to see some smaller, more innovative companies get involved.
It would definitely shake things up a bit. Plus, fostering competition is always good for driving innovation and making sure the DoD gets the best possible solutions.
So we could have a mix of established giants and up-and-coming innovators all vying for a chance to shape the future of defense technology. I'm already getting caught up in the drama of it all.
It's definitely going to be a fascinating competition to watch unfold. And remember, this is a multi-award contract, meaning multiple companies could be selected to work on different parts of Tetris the Third. It's not winner take all.
So it's more like a giant collaborative puzzle with different companies contributing their unique pieces to the overall picture.
Exactly. And that's one of the things I find really interesting about Tetris the Third. It's not just about building bigger and better weapons. It's about pushing the boundaries of technology, fostering collaboration and innovation, and ultimately ensuring national security in a rapidly changing world.
It's definitely given me a lot to think about. We've covered a lot of ground, but there's still one big question lingering. What does all this mean for the future?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we'll explore in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, so we've, gone deep on the what and the how of Tetris the Third. Now let's talk about the so what. What are the implications of all this? It feels like we're, I don't know, like on the verge of a whole new era of warfare.
Yeah, it's true. The technologies being developed under Tetris the Third, they really do have the potential to reshape the global landscape. But like any powerful tool, it all comes down to how it's used.
Right. So we've got hypersonic missiles that can travel at 5 times the speed of sound, directed energy weapons that can, disable electronics with incredible precision, cyber warfare capabilities that could, disrupt entire countries. Honestly, it's a bit daunting.
I understand your concern. It's like we're stepping into uncharted territory, and there's a, natural apprehension that comes with that. But instead of getting overwhelmed, let's just, try to understand the potential challenges and opportunities.
Okay, so challenge number 1. Could this lead to an arms race, with other countries trying to develop their own versions of these weapons?
That's definitely a possibility. It's a classic security dilemma. One country's efforts to bolster its own defenses can inadvertently make other countries feel threatened, leading to a spiral of escalation.
Right, it's like a never-ending game of one-upmanship.
Yeah.
But with weapons that are, increasingly powerful and potentially destabilizing.
Exactly. And that kind of brings us to another concern. Could these technologies actually make war more likely? If you have weapons that are perceived as being more precise, more controllable, less destructive, might that make leaders more willing to use them?
That's a chilling thought. But yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's like the barrier to entry for conflict, it could be lowered.
Right. Technology can sometimes create a disconnect between, the act of war and its consequences, but it's crucial to remember that even the most advanced weapons will have human costs and unforeseen repercussions.
Yeah. And then there's the whole ethical dimension. How do we ensure that these weapons are used responsibly? How do we prevent them from falling into the wrong hands?
Those are questions that, they deserve serious attention. And not just from military leaders and policymakers. We need a broader societal conversation about the ethical implications of these technologies.
It's interesting that the sources sought notice place so much emphasis on cybersecurity. It's almost like the DoD is acutely aware of the potential vulnerabilities of these systems.
Yeah, cyber warfare is a game changer, and its significance is only going to increase. The ability to disrupt critical infrastructure, power grids, financial systems, communication networks, all from afar without ever setting foot on enemy soil, it creates a whole new set of challenges.
It's like the battlefield has expanded to include the digital realm, and the lines between physical and virtual warfare are blurring.
Exactly. And that's why cybersecurity can't be an afterthought. It needs to be integrated into the design and development of these systems from the very beginning.
So we're not just talking about a new generation of weapons, but a whole new way of thinking about warfare itself. It's both exciting and a little terrifying, to be honest.
I think that's a healthy perspective. This is a pivotal moment in history, and it's, crucial that we approach these advancements with a balance of curiosity and caution.
Yeah, what I'm taking away from all this is that we can't just sit back and let technology dictate the future. We need to be actively shaping that future, having these tough conversations, and making sure our values and ethics keep pace with our technological progress.
I couldn't agree more. Knowledge is power, and the more we understand about these complex issues, the better equipped we'll be to navigate the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
Well said. And that brings our deep dive into Tetris the Third to a close. I hope this has given you, the listener, a clear understanding of what this project is all about, its potential implications, and why it matters. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.